Hi. We're going to be back to Butch's caricature. We're going to finish the face in first few minutes, and then we're going to go back into the actual bonsai plant. I haven't got much more as far as the penciling of this. Notice I have it upside down because I'm going to draw it towards myself. This initial part here is a little bit light. I'm going to take my eraser and actually erase some of these a little bit too dark. I'm going to go over this with pen and ink and really go over it one more time, but I really believe that you have to pencil out everything before you do that, and then you're not going to run the risk of making a mistake. Ink is the end. You make a mistake in ink, you're in big trouble. So pencil is your best way of making sure you don't make a big goof. So leave a little light there. I just have a little dark area to complete. Then we go to the bonsai plant and show you what's going on there. In the future, I'm going to actually do the fun part, which is going to be the person. It's a lot more fun because you could do. I think it's fun to be able to take the actual situation and have fun with it. The face, I will not take liberties with. I think the face is holy. You don't touch it. There's nothing worse than doing a face incorrectly. It's going to haunt you. I'd rather have fun with the body, the circumstance, the situation, the circumstance. You know what I mean? Don't have fun with the face. Too many characters today, they will extend the nose. They'll make a person's mouth too big. I don't like that. I think what you have to do is really be careful with that and be very honest and careful. I'm almost done with this part of it. I'm going to put a couple of hairs there. Notice I'm doing double follicles with a lot of the hairs. I don't like to do one single line and leave it at that. It's better to do a double follicle. You could always fill in with graphite later or whatever, but you don't run the risk of making solid at this point. Alright, it's looking pretty good. There's going to be shadow on the left side of his face. So let's do that. Put a little shadow there. I'm going to take my smudger and do a little smudging. Can't do that with a pen and ink. You'll do stipple maybe. But you can't do, I don't like solid ink. That's a bit too much. So I'm doing a little stump action, filling it in. Later on, when I ink it, I'll do stipple probably. I don't like cross-hatching on a face. Not good form. It looks muddy and very dark. Alright, the mouth is going to be a little bit more severe. I'm going to put a solid line there. Butch has got a little happy grin on his face. I'd be happy too if all I could do all day was play with flowers. But I have to draw people's faces and paint. And I know people say, well, that's pretty darn good too. But there's some faces you have to paint and draw that are not. It's not always fun. I have to tell you though, this is the happiest part of my life. I've never had more fun than painting and drawing, and I know some people say it's hard when you do realistic faces. It's the best. I get such joy out of making a face look real and genuine. Out of making landscapes genuine and look like they're real. I don't like what I see. Too much stuff out there is just haphazard, not really conceived properly, not really executed well. And they get away with murder as far as I'm concerned. And we're living in that type of generation. We have a lot of that stuff being done. But I get such honest joy out of doing a painting or a drawing, and it's conceived well, the idea is there, and it's executed well. Boy, I tell you, that does it for me. All right, little shadow under the nose. Well, put a little identification under the nose. There is lines under there. I have to be honest with it. A little bit of shadow here. Later on, when I ink this, I could always do more identification with shadow and stuff. We'll also have much more fun when we put the things together, the caricature with the body. I always say that's fun when you put the two together. The bonsai plant's going to be fun too. Take your stump, blend the shadow ever so carefully. Now later on when we ink it, we won't have the option of blending. We'll have to use stipple, which is in itself okay. Now remember, the last drawing I did was of the Plainville Library. A lot of stipple. But the trick is to know when to use a stipple, when not. A building is different than a face. And it's kind of fun when you know what to do with each one, how to do it, when to use stipple, when not to, when to make a drawing the way it should be when it comes to architecture. I don't do the same type of work for each thing. I think we don't have that anymore. I think people just have lost that ability. All right, a little bit of shadow here. A lot of people don't realize that a stump is every bit as important as a pencil. The trick is not to go to extremes with it. Don't be self-reliant on the stump. Don't be self-reliant on the pencil. Combine the two. All right, we're going to do the chin now. A little bit of shadow there. All right, we're doing pretty good. We got shadow under the nose. We're actually going to put a solid line under the chin now. Honestly, got a trick. People don't realize you can put shadows without being too harsh. I find that a lot of people who paint or draw goes to extremes with that. There's no need. It's coming out good. We'll take the stump again. Put a little bit of stump action underneath the nose. A little bit here. A little bit on this side. Obviously, the right side of his face is not as dark as the left. The lower half of a face is always easier than the top half. It sounds funny, but it's true. The top half has a lot of problems. You got the eyes, you got the nose. The bottom is just the mouth, and usually it's not that convoluted. It's not so hard. Unless, of course, you're talking about a guy who's got a beard. Then we're talking about all sorts of problems. But in this case, no beard, just skin, no problem. In Butch's case, he had a lot of hair on his head, so that was a lot of work. But, you know, it's kind of fun in the sense that the hair is sculpted. One follicle goes on top of the other. Worked out real nice. We're going to, and that's identifiable. It's really good because it's perfect for caricature. You want a look that identifies with the person, and that hair is strictly identifiable. It worked out perfect. Somebody who's bald has got a look. Somebody who's got the same hair every time you see him is perfect. The people that are hard are the ones that constantly go through changes. And you can't do a caricature of that because they change too much. Guys like Butch, constant. That's what I like. Well, of course, you better not turn around and get a severe haircut next week, then this caricature is going to be useless. I don't think he will. That's what, this day and age, we're living in a society where things change too rapidly, and I kind of like when people stay the same, and a caricature is always going to stay worthwhile. All right, we're almost done with the face. We're going to proceed to the bonsai plant, which is the whole purpose of this. It's what he owns, a bonsai shop. We're going to do the chin. That's going to be fun. When I ink it, having all the pencil done is going to be so easy to go right into this. And you'll see that. You'll see how easy everything comes, as opposed to if I didn't have some preparatory work. Like, pencil is great, because if you put all the preparation into it, then you're going to be all right. I don't leave stuff to hazard. I don't want to guess and say to myself, well, that's kind of like what I thought it would look like. In my case, it looks just like the person. I kind of go out of my way to find a face that is got a look. Don't ever pick a face that is going to be boring. Pick a face that's got a look. It's almost destructive to find a face that just hasn't got a look. You're doomed. Same thing with paintings. Every now and then I run into a person. There's a girl I want to paint really badly. She's got the most beautiful eyes. And I think it's scary, because when you see that person, you say, boy, I would like to make a painting out of you. You run the risk of having that person think you're some sort of lich, some sort of masher. I'm not. I do really good paintings, and she would be the perfect model, and I think I scared that person off. Because it does sound like you're some sort of pig. It's unfortunate. That's one of the risks of being an artist, though. There are some models that are just perfect. And I don't care age, gender. I've done every age, every gender. Everything has something valid in it. When it comes to elderly gentlemen, I'd rather do them in oil. Something about the texture of oil, the basic tone of oil, it lends itself to a male. Acrylic, much more applicable to young ladies. The color's vibrant. Caricatures, anybody at all, as long as they have a look. Like I said, as long as they have an appearance that lends itself. If they don't, you're doomed. Well, Butch is looking good. That's going to be a real good caricature. People will know exactly who it is. All right, let's go to the bonsai plant. Let's first put it up on the easel. Make some comments about it. I think, right off the bat, that we could do a couple of things. According to the picture, I would recommend we darken, when I actually ink this, I'm going to darken this area. There's a little arc there, if you could see it. It's going to be a little bit darker. Probably a lot of stipple is going to be in order. This could be a little bit darker too. I didn't want to do it in pencil because you run the risk of making it too muddy when you do that. When I do the actual caricature, I'm going to put the shirt then. I'm going to have it kind of open. I'm going to put the, he's got kind of like a little outfit on. We're going to make that obvious. Well, let's get to the actual bonsai now. Also, I think I want to make it a little bit bigger. I very just gingerly approached it. I looked at the picture, just ever so carefully put it in. I could always make it bigger. That's a great thing about a bonsai plant. You could always expand upon it. You could always make it smaller. You could do all sorts of stuff. And that's what I'll do. The bonsai plant is something that goes on tiers, as far as from what I could see. I'm not an expert. But I could always add another tier to it. I could always make it go higher. I could always have it go in a different direction. It'll work. So, looking at that, I'm looking at this level. And it's kind of fun because you can't really, it's like a Christmas tree, but it's not, because it goes in little directions. So I'm going to do that. This is how I'm going to approach it. I'm actually going to draw a level, probably going to be a limb. And from that limb, I'm going to draw little groupings of pine. And we'll do the same thing with one next to it. I think it's amazing. I can see why Butch loves this, because it is fascinating. And put another little row, another little limb. Put the same thing in there like that. It's like a little miniature. It's so fragile. I could just see by looking at it. It's got to be so perfectly fragile. And we'll do the same thing. When we actually draw this in ink, I'm going to do the same thing that I do with hair, and we put follicle upon follicle. Right now it looks like single hairs, and I really don't want to make it that. I'll make it follicles. It's going to be very interesting. All right, let's look at it this way. And again, we'll bring a little branch. The great thing about what I'm doing is you could see the tiers. One tier upon another tier. I could lower the, I could actually make the branches have depth too by doing this. If I make the lower branch a little bit darker, and just have light hit the top of it, it's going to be nice. I like how that works. I like how these branches have like little tufts almost. We'll do the same thing. And rarely do you see that it's an individual little grouping. But I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's say we do this. And we'll do another one below that. I could see where one could be addicted to this. It looks interesting. I could definitely be consumed with drawing this. It's fun. I imagine it'd be fun painting something like this because of the same nature. The light hits it in such a way. Now, if I go this way and actually draw the main limb and branch it off, might be fun. It's like, it looks to me like a miniature of a real tree, and that's what's endearing about it. I can imagine a miniature of a maple tree. I know that there are. My father had a miniature Japanese maple, and it was the same thing. It was just incredible. The leaves are all little, and it was all red. I don't think it was a bonsai, but it was just incredible because we kept it outside. The thing about these that I noticed, all go up. They don't go down. Well, some of the other ones do, but the informal upright go up. Very interesting. Well, I'm going to draw it that way anyway. I'm really a novice when it comes to this. We're going to do a lot of that. We're going to make it full of information. And that's what's going to be interesting about it. Let's say these are the ones that are thick. We're going to actually make that a very thick bark. We'll have some of these break off into smaller little branches. And again, we'll go back to the easel and we'll see what I've done, make commentary, see what I could go further with it. It's fun that it doesn't go, all these leaves go straight up. Alright. I'm going to actually do the caricature part, the character, next episode. It's going to be fun. And that should take about 1 or 2 to actually pencil that out. The inking is going to be fun. I'm always saying to myself, wouldn't it be fun to come up with captions for, let's say, if he ever decides to have a sale in his business, or it's always fun to have the character come up with some wording. I always love when I do a caricature and you do that. It's fun. He might someday have a sale or something. Bonsai shop sale. It'd be so much fun to do that. I don't think he has to advertise his business, though. One of those businesses that are just going to survive without it. But it's fun. I always said I had a friend of mine who had a business, and I did a caricature for him. And he used his caricature for so many different ways. It was amazing. I think when I do a caricature, you could use them for so many purposes. They don't have to be, there's no end to it. All right, let's do this. Let's bring a separate little branch there. Do the same thing. Some of these don't really have a continuous growth. They kind of stop at a single little growth spurt. And we want to emphasize that. We don't want to keep it looking the same. It gets to be monotonous. We don't want that with a bonsai. Let's turn it around a little bit. We could always make it, we could always add a branch. There's no end to this. Like, for instance, even though the picture says that ends here, we're going to do something fun. We're going to add, as long as it looks plausible. There's no end to what we do, as long as it looks plausible. Once you start making a plant look top heavy or bottom heavy or side heavy, then you're not doing good. And that's one thing about a bonsai, they look very much balanced. I pretty much like the way this is turning out. Next to Butch, it looks balanced. It looks very nice. Let's do a couple of these branches underneath. I could always do a second tier underneath here. That's a great thing. You actually see the branches underneath. It works out great. And we got one more thing to do here. The good thing too is that some of these actually don't have plant life coming off. Some do. So it really adds a depth to it. I'm going to actually show the base of the plant next time, because I want one of Butch's hands to be holding it. I might have it like this. Again, there's no end to what I'm going to do. It all depends on how I fantasize this at home. That's a great thing about caricatures. You don't have to be fixed to anything. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to imagine that his left hand is going to be holding the plant from beneath. And that's going to be real cool. Something like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. I don't think we're going to have the thumb involved. Thumb could actually be basing the other side. But you can see what I'm talking about. We could have the arm, maybe a little bit of something going there. That'd be kind of cool. You can see how, I'll show you on the easel. It doesn't have to be anything more than that, as long as it looks plausible. I want to have his right hand actually holding a stem of the plant. I think that'd be great. Like he's either working it, touching it. That doesn't really matter. Okay, let's do one more bottom to this. I'm going to actually extend it a bit. A little bit of depth. We are going to make these have depth. We're going to make them all individually identifiable. I don't like this to be boring. One thing about bonsai plants, they're so consuming. You look at them for hours. They're like little miniatures, and like little miniature cities. You could look for hours and see something different every time. I recently bought a book on bonsai plants. I was just transfixed over the whole thing. I could see why Butch has given up his life for them. They're really incredible. All right. What I want to show is this. Yeah, I know. What I want to show is we're going to put this on the easel. We haven't really finished the bonsai plant. We'll do that next time. But the thing I want to stress is that we're going to pencil each one. It looks like they're all facing this way, so we're going to have to put a couple going that way. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And again, if anybody really wants a caricature done of them, call the station up. I think it's a fun thing. It's amazing what I could do with Butch. He really comes to life, and I really like it. When I ink it, again, that whole thing can be shot down. You could use it. You could make it into a business card, for God's sakes. You could do so much with it. There's no end to it. And I like the fact that when I did this, when I got the left arm involved, holding the plant, the whole body is involved with the entire concept. I kind of like that. If anybody likes this program, please contact the station, express your feelings. That'd be nice. This is like my third season, maybe my fourth. And again, I've done almost every aspect of art except for sculpture. I think sculpture has been kind of hard to show on air. I guess I could, but I really like the traditional things. I like flat art. And let's face it, there's not one concept. I probably haven't done certain types of art. I'm not crazy about, well, there are certain things I don't like, but I like anything to do with inking, painting, oil, pastel. Not crazy about pastel. But this is turning out pretty good. I think Butch is going to be happy with the way it comes out. I'm probably going to have his right hand holding one of the, it's going to be pretty good. Yeah, I got this going the wrong way. It's coming out pretty good. Turn this down a little bit more this way. A little bit more on this chin, and then we're going to be in business. I think the shadow is just right. I think I might use my stump to address the shadow here. Coming out pretty good.